Okay, welcome to the budget meeting, March 7th, 2023. In attendance, we have Dr. Cooper, Mr. Hurley, Ms. Owens, Ms. Haynes. We also have in attendance the key administration folks from every building and department. And I'm Julia Olson. We have Tanya Bell and Kristen Thompson. On the phone, we have Russ Jerick and Kevin Strobel. So I am going to turn it over to Mrs. Haynes to tell us where we're starting for this budget workshop.
Okay. I just wanted to go back over the adjustment index that we have for this year. The current is 5.3%, which equates to 1.7249 a mil. Increase or dollars would be 1.9 or $2 million. Rounded up. It just gives you this slide you've all seen before. This just tells you where we're coming from. We used to be 2.3, but because of inflation, COVID up the whole 9 yards, we're actually up. However, the actuary computation, when they go through, they try to forecast out where the actual index is going to be going. Of course, we're going to only go down as inflation goes and resets itself, and we go back to more of a normal, or that's relative, I know, type of index. They're going to be dropping down. So they warn everybody just to keep that heads up that you're looking at your 5s, your 4% increases these years, but probably within the next 5 will be back down around 2% or 1%. So your ability to increase taxes is going to go down as things go back to a relatively normal, whatever that is. This also you saw before. We're going to want to get through this meeting, get your questions answered, and then we're going to want to set a workshop possibly for the beginning of May 1st through the 4th, just to keep, because we need to adopt a proposed final budget by May 8th, which is the town meeting, the first meeting in May. And then you'll see the dates. You've seen this before. These are just the important dates on the budget process. All right, so tonight we're going to start with technology. So if you want to bring up your technology budget, and if you have any questions, Scott Max is in the room to answer any questions.
It's arranged alphabetically, so I was very confused, but now I found it.
We had special responsibilities, so we're going to call that education technology.
Yeah,
Education.
to bump it up a little bit.
Yes.
Okay.
While you're looking for it, I'll give you some highlights.
I
from
found
it.
it.
Year over year, we're coming in just shy of $100,000 less, and that's really just reflecting work we started years ago with our one-to-one program and that sort of thing that we forecasted about a 3 to 5 year return on investment. So we're starting to see that show up in our budget now that we're actually seeing cost savings because we're not having to purchase quite as many computers to have in multiple locations and that sort of thing. From a program perspective, no reductions in the quality of our replacement cycles and different things as a result of those reductions. So we're able to do, honestly, more with less and keep that replacement cycle going. Notable for the upcoming year is our K-8 iPad program getting a refresh, which we appreciate the board approving last month in February, so we'll be moving forward with that. But beyond that, no major infrastructure changes or anything are reflected in this budget for the upcoming summer. The K-8 iPad upgrade is our large project for this coming year.
Okay. When you look under staff development, it's like almost the end of the list. I know the numbers are small. You have $6,000 this year. You used a little less than that last year. Are you on track to use it all this year?
This year we will probably come in under one of the main conferences we go to is called PEC. Historically, that's held in Hershey. This year it was held up in Poconos. We opted not to go just because of the distance.
I see.
And it's in February. So this year we'll probably come in less because of that movement. We opted not to. We will be back.
So is that the main staff professional development that you have?
That is our biggest one. So we do have other ones.
Because
that are
you had an increase last year, and then you had another increase in your assessed for this year. Is that based on like what you think it's going to cost to go to Hershey this next year?
Next year, yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Our biggest change is with PDC, we've started involving our instructional coaching team, so they can go back, bring ideas back for a district. So that's been our main driver now for technology conferences. We have other little ones, but that's usually just one or two staff members. PDC is our big one where we have instructional and operational technology that we attend and get ideas from.
All right. And when I'm looking at the meat of your the money outlay for your budget is under computer assisted instruction. Looking here under technical equipment replacement.
Yep.
That's significantly small. That's almost like the entirety of the dip in the budget in this number, in this section, and that is because we don't have a payout for something that we're leasing this year, or is it we're leasing less?
Releasing less.
Okay.
So what's coming off the books are leases that were instituted prior to COVID, prior to our K-12 one-to-one.
Right.
So those leases are coming off the books. We don't need to replace those computers any longer because they were in areas that the iPads have replaced. So
Right.
every student has a device and every student has a cheaper device. So those leases are largely coming off the books. Included in there is office staff devices. So those will still be replaced, but we're looking at a significant reduction just on one of those leases.
The work that you've been doing over the last 5 years to remove some of the like wired connections in all the classrooms, not all of the wired connections, but the ones that were intended for kids using an actual like laptop.
Yep.
That and increasing the strength of our wireless network. Is that like? I know you've been doing that over the course of the summers and stuff like that. Are we through that process now, and then we'll now just be updating the new equipment, or are we in a situation where we're still getting rid of some of those Ethernet ports that are excess?
We're primarily, you may see one or two switch reductions, nothing major anymore. We've gone through that, so
Okay.
I don't anticipate any substantial reductions any longer in that area.
Okay.
So, Julia, I have a
Yep.
question. I wanted to make sure I heard it properly. So net year over year, his budget's $100,000 less than last year.
Yes.
Is that true?
It's
Okay.
it's $86,000 less.
Scott, go back and find 13. No, I'm kidding.
You know what, we probably will by the end of this, we still got to meet up vendors coming here in April.
Okay. And Russ, do you have any questions at this time?
I don't, Julia.
Okay. How about you guys?
I'm good.
You may be seated. Thank you
It's
so
a,
much.
it's a long time. It's a long time coming for all the leasing for things to balance out. To actually see it happening in year 5 like this, it really
Absolutely.
is. That was the plan from the very beginning with the technology. And great job, Scott. I mean, it really finding and negotiating good leases, making sure the equipment's always up to date, being able to get better equipment for less money. All those things start to come to fruition, and now we're getting to enjoy that ride of not only a stable but even less dollars. So in the budget, so that was the beginning plan from the very that was the goal from the very beginning. But kind of neat to see it now.
So
Great
says
job.
our chair of the technology committee. Thank you, Kevin.
What's that?
Okay, moving on. What's next?
Okay, the next is going to be special education.
All right.
And I put together a little slide based on some conversation.
Oh, okay.
Tuition is very different, line item to budget. A student or students with different needs can move in at any time. So it's very difficult to budget for the tuition. Referrals
know.
have outpaced projections. Enrollment has increased nearly 3.5% annually for the past 3 years or more. Special education students account for 20% of DBSD total enrollment, and total enrollment is declining. However, our special education population is increasing. Shelley put together a slide which is on the screen to show you the numbers, and she'll.
When the budget gets a pre-explainer, it's always good news, right?
And I'm Scott, and I don't have good news to share with Scott.
That's fine.
But the slide I put together shows you historically how we're moving, how the district overall enrollment is decreasing. And if you look at our current numbers, we are back, special ed wise, where we were when we had over 3,300 students. So we are going in the wrong direction for
Yeah.
our special ed. So you look at the referrals, just to kind of give you an idea. I went back 3 years, 2021, okay, so we can say that was COVID, right? We had 114 referrals as of March 1st. Last year, 99. This year, we have 186 referrals. That's unheard of.
Wow.
And then we look at the outplace where the majority of this, my budget comes from. So we had 27, 2021, 36 last year, 48 with an asterisk because I am currently looking for a place for 5 students. And the middle school is looking for a place for 1 AEDY student who's not special ed.
Okay.
So then in addition to that, in July, this past July 2022, they passed Act 66 again, which gave students who aged out at 21 that additional year. So that was one student who's $104,000, who we did budget for,
And they're back in.
right?
Yeah.
So if that continues, that's
That, well, yeah, that
additional money.
extends our responsibility for
Correct.
for
Correct.
however many students take advantage of that law that's in effect.
Right,
in
and
effect,
they
yeah.
only passed that in July 2022.
I know,
And parents
yeah.
had to decide by August 1st. Well, of course they're going to decide because the county tells them, you know, take advantage of the school
Sure.
district paying, because
Right.
then we don't have to use any of your waiver funds.
Right, I get that.
Right.
You said it, that particular situation, that was just one student.
Correct. We have one
Can we talk for a minute about where we are with the money that we budgeted for special ed this year and how far over, under, or on target we're going to be by the end of the school year? I know that's not
Yeah.
the main discussion of this, but I just wanted to.
Right, because then you also have to take into account in this budget is cyber charter money.
Right.
Right, the 500 to tuition.
Right.
And
Yep.
I'm looking for 100,000 right now
Okay.
to transfer into special ed. but
And that's about
they're
where-
out of money.
And that's about where it was 100,000, about where we need more, $100,000 more by the end of the year, or just
Right.
this month?
So far, I think we've really worked hard, so I think
Right.
she's got all her POs in.
Okay.
Right now, she's just looking for 100,000 of something that came in that we weren't expecting.
So is that money in this document that's considered the revised budget? Does that include for 2022 to 23?
Yeah.
The number for revised budget includes the extra money that we needed to cover things that were required by law. That I like to always highlight that.
Yes,
Yeah.
that
Okay.
can't change, that I'm not gonna be able to decrease.
Correct.
And
Okay.
we were talking a little bit, and I don't know, it might be further analysis. I believe we're gonna have to add a little bit more money into the 500s.
For
But I haven't-
2023,
For
24?
23, 24.
Okay.
I'm waiting to
That's a
see.
guess too.
It's
You
a
know.
guess, but I like to keep it as,
I understand. So for the folks that aren't on the phone right now, the current assessment of where we are, where we're going to be for the year that we're in for the whole special ed budget, including all that stuff that Shelley was just talking about, is $5.56 million. And the budget assessment based on everyone that we expect to still be serving next year, the assessment is $6.73 million. So it's an increase. It's an increase of a little
How
less
much
than
can that-
1.2.
How much of that can be offset by going virtual? Because we'll have that virtual program going. Is there any money we can attribute against that to offset some of that expense if we actually get the virtual program done?
For special
In
ed.
the
That's taken into
cyber
consideration?
In the cyber,
We're supposed to do it this year. Last year, we were going to do
Right.
that would be,
cyber school, yeah?
yeah, that's a good point. Is that something that
I do
we
not
can look
put
at
that-
in the,
That would be throwing darts in the wind.
got it.
I'm more conservative. I'm not putting that in until I see what actually happens.
All right. So yeah, that is not currently accounted for in this budget.
Okay, that's still on the board. That's still going to be done, though, right? The plan is to finish that.
Program? The virtual program?
Yeah.
It was a question.
Yeah, that's
It's
still
still planned to be finished.
That's still the intent, yes.
Yep.
Okay.
The goal of when it will be done
Starting next school year.
next school year.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And, but that does, and that does impact some, I don't know, do you know where it is in the budget? The money that goes out for the cyber charter?
The cyber charter is in your 500s. It's a specific line item indicated, page 2.
Okay.
If
It's
you look
such a
down,
long budget.
It's tuition other than charter. There's 562 is your charter school tuition line.
Oh, I see. So the cyber charter tuition is a little less than $1 million, is that what I'm seeing? Or am I on the wrong line?
Yeah, it's the 2.7 number, 2.7 million.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So 2.7 million is, yeah, that is a significant portion of the special education budget.
Yeah, the thought was to try and get 10% to come back to that, $250,000.
Yep.
I mean, it's money.
Yep, but as Kathleen said, it's not presented in this budget because we don't, it's not,
Exactly.
yeah.
Not done yet.
Like she said,
Okay.
it would just be a guess at this point.
Yep.
Anything else that you wanted to point out to us? You know that, a lot of this is just a black box for me. I know that it's money that needs to get
Well,
spent.
the other asterisk that I have up there for 22, 23, when you look at the different numbers, is the enrollment, when I made this slide,
Uh-huh,
which was last week, we were at 645 special education students. We're now at 648. And all of those other numbers are 12-1 child count. At 12-1 child count this year, we were at 601. We've increased by 47 students since December child count. So the savings I can offer is that we decrease special ed staff. But again, I don't know how long that's going to be able to,
correct,
because the classes are at
Full.
capacity.
yeah. All right.
Anything else?
Anything from the folks on the phone? One thing I will say, guys, the folks on the phone, the budget workshop stuff was, those documents were shared with you in an email from February 28th, I think. But there's also some additional information that's being provided in a slide deck. And at the end of this meeting, I'll just ask Kathleen to just send it to you in an email so that you have this, just a little bit extra color that from what we're discussing, so you have them to look at and you can ask questions if something in the future doesn't make sense.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Any questions about special ed right now?
Not right now, Julia.
Okey doke. Thank you. Hey, you're up. I heard that you had a pretty good weekend.
Good weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Swimming and
Swimming and bowling.
bowling, right.
Wrestling leaves tomorrow. Bocce leaves tomorrow.
Bocce leaves tomorrow too? Oh, I didn't know that was this week. Okay. All right, athletics is probably kind of at the beginning. Yes, there it is. Okay, moving on to the athletic budget. Go ahead. Oh, yeah, did you, I didn't know if you had a high-level summary for me. We're still working on, making sure that as we started, 5 years ago, maybe closer to 3 years ago, starting to make sure that, that you had worked on a schedule to get new uniforms for kids. We're still on schedule for that, right?
Yeah, we're still on schedule for that. I think there are some things that from this year, in terms of this year's budget, that we've been able to do. When you look outside the new track mats, had to
Yes.
be replaced, and that was a large purchase. That was $32,000.
And that was not, were they damaged or were they?
They were over 12 years.
Oh, okay.
So they had more in their life.
Yeah.
So these will last us. These are the same company. Should last us another 12 years if we take care of them correctly, which we plan to do.
Okay.
The other big purchase that we had was the basketball shooting machine, which cost about $4,500, $5,000,
Okay.
which we got a really nice deal on. We just had gotten that towards closer to the winter.
Okay.
So hopefully that pays dividends here for our athletes. A lot of things that we've been able to do for our athletes has been really great since I've been here the last 3.5 years. And you can see the difference in how that, one, in terms of pride, how they can carry themselves. And then two, it's been a very successful 3.5 years in terms of winning on the field.
Yeah.
Or at least competing better on the field. So the things we're able to do has been very helpful. Uniforms.
Yep.
Yeah, we're on a cycle, and probably next year, I think we have boys basketball, softball, girls soccer, and boys volleyball, and then the following year, the cycle starts over, so the big hit will be football, because that'll have to be football.
What's a shooting machine?
It's a tool. It's from Dr. Dish. It's a tool that allows athletes to work by themselves, and it sits underneath the basket, shoots balls at you, and it moves. So you're getting, instead of having somebody stand there and pass, which somebody else can be doing something else now, that machine allows somebody to work by themselves, and they can get in. I mean, you're getting in 100 shots in less than 20 minutes if you really wanted to, if you want to be that sore. But it's a great tool.
Okay. Does transportation for games, is that in the transportation budget or is that in the athletics budget?
That's in this.
Okay.
It's the first thing on your budget. It's contracted services.
Okay. And
Julia, it was actually over $6,000. Just saying, I signed the check.
Oh, the shooting machine?
okay, he said it's over
Yeah,
$6,000.
the machine was over $6,000. Yep.
Okay. The increase in the transportation is based on the increase in our transportation costs in general? Or
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And
It's also, this year I think we're going to see a little bit of a difference too, because football goes much farther away
Oh,
than what
right.
we had previously.
because of being in the different
In the
league
LL.
impact, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then you're also sending band and cheer with that too.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that before, in previous years, especially right after COVID, they only went once in a while, right? Yeah, we had just gotten it ramped up where they went every time and then COVID hit and then nobody went anywhere. Yeah, okay. Do you know off the top of your head who's getting replacement uniforms this year? Couple middle school, couple middle school, couple high school, I'm assuming?
It'll be boys basketball for both middle school and high school. It'll be softball for middle school and high school. Girls soccer and boys volleyball.
Okay. Increase in costs for officials is increase in their costs or increase in number of officials?
It's both.
Oh, a little bit.
So they always go through an increase every year. That's getting ready to be reviewed this summer across all sports in the Berks, and they're going to reset the pay scale because we are behind in the Berks as compared to the PAC and the LL. So they're going to do a comparison and reset that. And then in terms of increased officials, we had to add one for football because we run the play clocks now, and we have an official run the play clock.
Okay.
And then we're going to next year go to, if you've ever been to volleyball, Usually the students do the lines, but they would like actually officials doing the lines, for,
Right.
at least for the varsity game.
Right, okay. On the budget for lawn care, we zeroed it out. Is that because it's being accounted for under
Yeah,
a
that's,
different
well,
budget?
it's going to come back in, but as we work, in the past, it always kind of, our facilities always went with facilities, right?
I gotcha.
So now when halters or any sort of group does something for athletics specifically, we're trying to get a handle on how much we're paying for that.
Okay.
As opposed to something for just mowing the front of the school.
So like you tag it for accounting purposes, but it's
Yeah.
not, it doesn't really come out of your budget? It's like zeroed out in your budget?
This year, you're adding as we go, because that wasn't in last year, because this is new this year.
Got it.
Okay, you didn't put any money.
I did not put anything in there, and I have
That's
that.
gonna be an addition.
Oh, that's not obvious to me because I have the revised budget, which is
Okay.
like where it's got like a couple of little line items here and there.
Right.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
supposed to be money in her budget for this year.
Got it.
And next year.
I think it's a little bit like transportation, trying to figure how much it would cost. So that's what we are working on this year in terms of how much that's coming out to.
Okay. Do we have any capital improvements that are coming up for any of the fields in the next year that we need? I know it's going to be discussed under facilities if we do, but I was just curious.
I don't have any capital improvements for this next budget cycle. We will have some in the next one, because we're gonna have to resurface the tennis courts with the township.
No? That
Um,
sounds fun.
And there are gonna have to be some things done to the infield at the Legion.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that they put up a big sign saying that we're all friends now. Like they have a big sign like, the Legion and
Oh, yeah.
Danny Boone School District,
Right.
working together.
Right, and I've spoken with both the township and the Legion. We have our meetings, and I know Jay also works with them and Coach McCoy. Obviously, there are things that have to be done in both of those fields that benefit us both.
I know.
So we understand that obviously if for facilities, when we're talking about just everyday wear and tear, what we have to do every year to recondition fields and get going, then you hit points where after a couple of years, you're completely redoing.
And I know we were trying very hard to work with them, but 2020 to 2021 kind of, there was less use, and then there were more problems from less use, not just from us, but
Right.
from, the other people that they had to use the fields, and I know they're still coming back from that.
Yeah, both of those fields, and even our fields here, a lot of use obviously by our sports, but a lot of use by other groups, outside
Right.
groups, right? So there's a lot of wear and tear, especially at the township, when it comes to those baseball fields and those fields on the other side of the tennis courts, which is what we use for soccer, field hockey.
Okay. And so overall, for the folks on the phone, overall we've got a decrease of almost $80,000 from last year's budget. Any comments or questions right now from the phone?
Awesome. Good job.
Russ?
Good job. Yep.
Yeah.
I have no comments.
The
Okay.
same thing. You just need 80 grand. Is that what I'm getting at?
Yeah, 80 grand less.
Sweet.
Now that's gonna change because I
Yeah,
have to put the
you
ground.
have to put,
Yeah.
you have to put the grounds back in.
Yeah, and so they do have to put the grounds numbers back in. Now, right now,
Money.
I'm looking for it. The grounds budget. I probably scanned right by it.
That's probably gonna go right back.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. I mean, we're looking at almost 100,000, I'm sure.
Yeah, so we are gonna have to see where it lands once those numbers for grounds get put back in. It might bring us right back up to a wash from last year.
Possibly, did you put the, weight equipment?
Yeah, that's all in there.
That's all in here,
I
yeah.
think that's all in there, yeah.
Yeah, it's in there.
I saw that, yeah.
Those are just different things that we do.
And there's, for instance, like insurance, there's some things that you have always put in that I don't really know
Yes.
those details.
The payment on the, on the weight room equipment that we make a payment every year, that's out of this budget, right?
Yeah, that's there.
Okay. All right.
Well, the other thing too, Julia.
Yes.
Even if we add it back in, it's being pulled from somewhere else.
Right.
Last year it was in another account. So with the savings, the net savings still should be there. It's just in another
What
area.
Kathleen is telling me is
Right.
that right now it's not on anybody's budget for grounds that involve the athletics grounds. Right now, it's not in anyone's budget.
No.
On the
Right. Where was
documents
it?
that
Where
we
was it
see,
posted last year? Okay.
it was in
Where was it posted last year?
facilities budget last year. So yes, you're right. So when you look
Right.
at like 2022 to 23, that was budgeted for in facilities, but right
Right.
now it's not. I'm told it's not in your budget. It's not. It's yeah.
22, 23, it was in athletics budget.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
And in 23, 24, you're not seeing it at all.
Yeah, so what Kathleen just said is that you're correct, that it was budgeted in the current year, but right now it's zeroed out on this document that I have in front of me, but it doesn't show up in someone else's budget for 23, 24 yet.
Right.
Okay.
So athletics net didn't go down because it's going to be put back in.
Yeah, that's what I
And
do.
it was-
That's what I just
was
said.
in
It might
last-
be a wash. It might
Yeah.
end up being a wash.
And it was the same. It was in there last year as well. Is that
Yeah.
one
Yes.
there? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not as excited anymore.
Just for the folks listening at home, Mr. Bucky Scott has arrived. He did about 10 minutes ago, but I didn't want to interrupt Ms. Schmidt. So, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so now we're going to start with the building budgets. We're going to start with the PC. Now, the slides that I put up there show that the field trips were taken out and technology support, software, instructional, there was some cuts that the individual buildings have made. But they're looking for some guidance from the board to make sure that's the direction. But you'll see as we go through what they cut, and if there's an issue, just let us know.
So I see, okay, so I see the PC.
They all cut field trips.
Why?
That's why we were looking for additional cuts. These were cuts that they presented as, and from a directional point.
And I remember last year, that's where we started, and we asked them to put them back in. We did, that's what we did last year, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
Yeah, it's needs versus wants.
Right.
Do we need it? Do we want it?
Exactly.
Those
So
kinds of
that's
things.
now.
That's an example of where you tried to save some money. Okay.
Yeah.
How much money were you asked to find?
Just any reduction of.
Any reduction that you could manage?
Yeah.
So the current, for the folks on the phone, the current revised budget for the year we are in is just shy of $80,000. So that was a budget for a 2-grade building, and so it's, because going further back, it's not quite apples to apples, right? But the 23-24 number after some significant cuts to programs, extra programs, is a $92,000.
And then with the reduction, it would be 81 cents.
It would be, and I guess I don't have that. Do I have
No,
a?
I did not.
I
did
got
not
you.
Go out there and change
Senior.
everything I.
I
initially
apologize.
gave
It's in your slides.
Okay,
So
so
slide.
what I just said is not right for the folks on the phone. So this current year that we're in, it's just shy of 80K. And the initial first pass budget was 92,000. And with some cuts to field trips, and technical support software and instructional supports. They would be able to take 10,000 off their budget, and that would put them at 81K, which is almost even with last year. That's what we're being presented with now. That's, you know,
I don't want elementary field trips cut.
no, I don't either. And therefore, the instructional aid cut, can you talk me through a little bit about what that would be?
The technology cut.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, we were working on a second step. That's a curriculum we follow for social emotional learning.
Okay.
So there was an increase for lead licensing there that was able to be paid for by a grant through Wellness Foundation.
So that can stay a cut?
So that can be a cut. And we won't lose, you know.
So we wouldn't be down as far as 81K if we brought back the field trips,
Right.
but we would be at what, about 86,
87, I think.
87. I would not like to see cuts to. We are just managing to bring these things back since.
They have sent home a Gertrude fundraiser for transportation for field trips.
PTC did.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to explain to parents, thanks for fundraising for transportation, but there won't be any field trips. So.
Next year.
But that was for this year.
That was for this year.
Oh.
But I think that and so the current budget is for what, like two field trips per grade?
Is what we plan.
That's about right?
The PTC is telling people, though, that this is going to go into a pot.
Yeah, I understand. But I'm not as concerned with their PR, but I, you know, as I am with, you know, I think that we're not super lavish with our field trips, and that we do, and I think that they have educational value. So I don't think
Two per grade.
two per grade, I think,
One per grade.
at least, yeah.
I think we need one per grade.
Yep, I think so too. I kind of feel like I would prefer to see the budget closer to 87 and, you know, being a plus 7K or plus 7K.
Julia, I have a question.
Yep.
Is there any way we can leave the budgets alone and mark down on the side what you think needs to be put back in, so we get all the way down to the bottom, and we still need to find another 100? Now it'll be 106, or maybe we saved enough where there's the $6,000, because there's going to be in every single one of these, there might be something that needs to be put back.
Yep.
So can we leave them alone and push it off to the side and change it?
I
when you
think
get to
that
the net bottom?
so the two line item cuts that you had made was one was for the technology. I think we can just call that good, let that go, and put a pin in our. Could we put a line item and say that, you know, it's either going to be 45 or it's going to be 3,000, you know, to have either two per grade or one per grade. Does that make sense? And so then at least there's at least one. Let's do that.
We can do that.
And this is not the
And
final.
I'm not saying I don't want them back in. I want them back in.
I
just
know,
wanna
this
take a
is
look
not
at
the final
what's my
call, but
total-
we're just looking at what the numbers are going to look like
Yeah.
with these changes. Yeah.
And I think it's likely that
Yep.
PTC will support that
Yeah.
going forward as well.
Oh, gotcha.
How many students are in PC compared to last year?
There are 2/3 as many because there's one less grade. What?
The budget's higher.
Of what?
Then last year.
Oh, no, the current year that we're in, is this
2023.
is the same number of kids in the current year that we're in as there will be next year.
No, All right, the budgets that you're looking at, the revised budget for the PC, I just want to make this very clear. This whole moving the one grade to the middle school happened so late, there were no adjustments to what you're looking at in that revised budget. That revised budget accounted for 3 grades, which you had prior. The middle school, it accounted for what they had before the change happened.
You can actually see it, if you look at the 2022-23 numbers, you'll see it's actually broken down by grade. So you'll see second grade supplies was $4,412 in that column right before this year's column. You see how it's broken out by grade?
I'm sorry, what page?
So,
I apologize.
So it's first grade, second grade.
So this column right here. This was like a total amount, and this is broken down by grade.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Yep.
got it.
Yeah, it was not broken out, the money wasn't given to the revised budget. I have moved the money over to the middle school I don't even know if they actually needed money yet. I didn't think I had to put any money in your budget, Thomas. We moved around, you were able to move around enough that we didn't have to take it from anywhere else to give you money. I didn't have to pump any extra money into the middle school to have enough money for the grades that he has that extra grade this year. But the revised budget for the PC, I know it had too much money, but I don't, because she had one less grade, but she still had a budget that accounted for 3 grades.
so there is an increase this year.
Yeah, I get it. All right, I think that we might have to talk about this again at some point. But yeah, I think that line strike and figuring out what the budget would be for one field trip per grade, and starting there, and we can add the second one in if we can. That
And when I talk about 2 field trips, like this year, our first grade went on a Reading Museum trip that was funded by a grant. So
Yeah.
That's why.
Kindergarten went to like a park.
The nature place, yes.
Yeah,
The admission was free with a grant for that as well.
Oh.
And that was for the trip.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
All right, the next is the intermediate center. The sheet that you all have in front of you doesn't account for the $15,000 that we just found in the very end. He has potential savings.
You found money
Found 15,000, yeah.
in the couch cushions. So okay. You got an elevator pitch, or do you want me to just ask questions?
Yeah, questions are fine. I mean, a couple notes, like Kathleen said, we found 15,000 in an account, just moving money over from last year, but looking into it, that was for the temporary secretary before I got to the IC.
Okay.
So we don't anticipate anything like that happening, so.
You don't anticipating that you didn't need that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have maternity leave coming up with the secretary potentially at the end of the summer, beginning of the fall, but nothing to worry about with that account, so we can move that to 0. An increase in counseling by $450 with membership, and then some small group materials for some things that they're working on with the kids. Reading intervention, $255 increase in terms of some things that they're looking at with their interventionists with tier 2, tier 3 materials. Supplies, an increase for the building, but as I was saying to a couple people today, our staff, we have about 52% of the building is new teachers and new staff.
I know.
So we have a really young staff at the IC.
So your professional development.
Professional development and some supplies needed for a classroom.
Yeah.
But those are really the only increases, and also the other increase would be a supply overall for the building. Just again, before I got there, I guess they have a supply closet, and the materials there are they're not really existent.
So that doesn't include The
I have to go
15,000?
back and cut these right here.
No, I know, but that doesn't include the 15,000. The 15,000, was that already removed from the budget that I have in front of me?
No.
No.
So then, if we found $15,000, I would like to have field trips put back in.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Because they're only $3,000 at his building for the.
Can we wait till we get to the end? I mean, I want them back too. I just think it's
The
prudent
$3,000
to not
was
negotiate
that-
line by line.
Was the 15,
I get
the
it.
30,
That's
the $3,000 for field trips, was that one per grade? Or is it more than that?
it's about 2,000 this year. We're doing, grade 2, talk to the teachers. We're gonna have a company come in. They picked the presentation just last week, so we're looking into that. That's gonna cost about $1,100 for them to come in
Next year?
this year.
Oh, this
for-
year.
For this year. Third grade is doing the museum, like Melanie said, that was from a grant. And fourth grade asked for the Reading Phillies to come back as a tradition
Okay.
this year, and
Yep.
that was less than that. So I think that's fair for field trips. Overall, with this budget, without field trips and without the 15,000, we're down to 84,448. And last year we were at 107.
Yeah,
So-
their current budget for the current year is 107 with the suggested cuts and the $15,000 that is not needed. It would be at 84. So it would, like I said, you'll get a slide with all the suggested cuts that are in addition to the.
Yeah, I
the-
emailed it to everybody.
Oh, great. Okay, so Kathleen already emailed it to you. Put a pin in the field trips.
I do, what is second grade?
Second grade, they had.
We're not adding them back in. I just said put a pin in it.
This year,
Yeah.
they looked at some suggestions,
I know.
like Hollywood Zoo and everything like that, but the cost was pretty high, transportation, some of the field trips, they went to like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, since the kids got back to school. Also, some of the second grade teachers as a group had, some concerns with maybe leaving the building right now, maybe
Okay.
bringing something towards us. So they found, a company that Eileen Gilmore worked on with them. There was a STEM company that went missing and another like national company, and that's what came recommended actually yesterday. So we tried to do something special for each grade level this year, and then also we tried school-wide assemblies again. So we had like the magician last month.
Is there something you can maybe send out to parents, because we kind of took a beating from parents because there's no field trips for second
Yeah, and the second grade teachers were talking with me and everybody the last month or two about that. And then just met yesterday, like I said, and also with pricing. With looking at that in the budget, what we'd spend to bring somebody in versus going out. Because it's not really looking with the teachers and even some parent suggestions in terms of where to take second grade.
Yeah.
If we don't do the museum, we don't do this, what really is left that is in close proximity that the kids would have a nice learning experience from.
Yeah, I mean, these kids started kindergarten in COVID, and then so they really haven't gotten
Right.
much.
Yeah, definitely when we finalize that, I want to, because I also want to talk about that, but also all the things that we did with the kids, with the assemblies. Like we had Barn Hill come on Friday as well, so,
Yeah.
we've done a lot this year. We went from nothing to a lot of assemblies, and then also doing something special for second grade. And then also working with the teachers for the end of the year, whether that's picnics or what other ideas that they have, because I know there's some traditions that they did before COVID, and just some things to add at the end of the year before the kids have their summer.
I saw Cuckoo came.
Cuckoo, that was a huge hit. Yeah,
He's fun.
yeah.
All right, guys on the phone, you have any questions about the IC?
Not now.
I don't.
All right, we good?
I'm good.
All right,
Thank you, guys.
thank you, sir.
Julia, we're still doing the, making notes on the side. We're going to do a running total, and then we can readdress whatever
Yes.
we're taking out.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, the middle school, there was some things that had to be added back at the bottom. There was some system glitch of some sort that we had to add some numbers in. That was 11,000, but we did find cuts of 15,000. So kind of netted out to 3,700. But and there's field trips in there as well.
Field trips. Printing and binding, it's a very small dollar amount, but can you give me an example of what you do for that budget?
For the top part?
Yeah, printing and binding is,
Yeah, that has been something like for the binding portion of it is if a teacher is making binding books.
I
something
see.
like that. That's my understanding of it.
Got it, okay.
I don't,
Like what we used to hire Kinkos for?
yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Not us, I mean, we as people,
Right.
we as humans,
And-
not the school.
And in talking with some of my staff, quite frankly, because of the increase in technology and some of the activities that they're doing with that,
That
the
it-
actual formal,
having a line item for it feels a little
correct.
dinosaurish,
Even though it is
yeah.
only $250, it's a.
I
it's a
know,
small
I
amount,
understand,
but-
I understand. Okay, travel instructional, is that for traveling for students or for staff?
Which one are you looking at?
I'm just looking at the cuts, the list of cuts
Oh, that's travel instructional, that's for staff. That was just me looking back over the
at
past
what
4
we,
years of
the history of what we were doing, okay.
Historically of what was used, and in looking at that, I think, I remember my first year in the district as an assistant principal was the 2019-2020 school year. So I'm just starting out to figure out what a normal quote-unquote year is like. But as we've looked at a lot of that training, looking back historically, it's always been about that original amount. But a lot of the trainings that are being done by the staff are done virtually.
Right.
I know, for example, my fifth grade ELA teachers and the ELA specialists all did a very valuable PD this fall.
Yeah.
All I needed to get was coverage for them. So there wasn't any travel cost or anything that has to do with it.
So I will say holistically, when I look at the whole thing, when you've got line items for cuts where we're actually having a reduction in the overall number, but we're not taking it to zero, I feel a little bit more comfortable with that when I see that, because that, means that, to me, it might not actually be this way. It may just be that I feel this way, that it's not like anybody's going to be doing without something that we needed. It's that we're doing a little bit less, Again, I want to put a pin in those field trips. But are there field trips this year planned for every grade?
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, we have our fifth grade team is working very diligently to get a lot of experiences that they still had as fifth graders at the intermediate center.
Right.
We're doing types of field day activities for the spring.
Yes.
We're working on trying to we actually had our hands on an assembly that we were looking at doing, but I nixed the assembly because I did not feel comfortable with how it was advertised per se. They claimed it was a free assembly. And so whenever someone tells me they're going to do something for free, my response is always, where's the catch?
Yeah.
And the catch ended up being that they would come in and it was an animal assembly.
Okay.
And they would charge the students $15 for a picture with the animals. And they wanted a minimum of 300 students at the assembly. And to me,
I don't really like that. That doesn't.
That's a catch.
I don't know, to be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure the name.
I just like $15 to make a picture of an animal.
Yeah, but if you paid for 3, you got it for 35 or something.
All right. No.
Because I just did it for my kid at Lorraine.
I paid for all 3.
Yes, and I did all 3 pictures, all 3.
All right. So.
But yes, our fifth grade is going to the American History Museum in Philadelphia.
Okay.
I believe beginning of April.
Oh, I like that.
Our sixth grade is doing something. I have to double check with them. I have not heard anything from our seventh grade teachers yet.
Okay.
But I currently, and in the talks, I was just on the phone with Dr. Cooper about a week ago, discussing some staffing for my 8th grade advisor to plan an 8th grade trip and to coordinate the promotion ceremony, and the 8th grade dance. Because that was also a position from funding that's a stipend 8th grade advisor that has not been used in 2 years.
So, for the folks on the phone, the current revised budget for the current year that we're in for a 4-grade building was a little over $110K. Current budget proposed for next year is $112,600, but Mr. Towers and Ms. Haynes are, with some changes that are part of this slide deck, are suggesting a savings off that number of $3,700. So that would put us right around 109 flat, okay? And And so that would be a very, very small decrease from the current year.
Unless you want to put the field trips back for 2000.
Oh, you know I do, but we're just putting a pin in that.
Do the students, like,
But why-
does an eighth grade be fundraising?
Why what?
For an eighth grade trip, like, do the students fundraise for an eighth grade trip?
Normally, they did do fundraising in the fall, is my understanding of what a fundraiser is. What that funds for them, I'm not 100% certain, but again, the eighth grade advisor is the one who kind of spearheaded that. I believe our counseling department has kind of helped out with that since then. That money goes kind of to them for their eighth grade activities as their class, and whatever doesn't get used in middle school, my understanding is that moves with that class as they move up.
So Kevin, I'm sorry, what were you asking?
My question is, why do you feel like there was just no opportunities for savings in the building?
He's asking why, when you did this second pass through to look for savings, it gives us just about 1K total. He was hoping to see more savings.
Well, initially, from where I sat with the budget, and it's kind of weird that it doesn't look that way for you all, but when you look at the slide that Mrs. Haynes provided, the things that were at the bottom that did not get put into Skyward or was not calculated into Skyward for some reason, and that's when I had looked at the printed out budget that we had got from Mrs. Haynes, so I kind of looked and went, wait a minute, I don't have these as zeros as my thing. So as far as where my computer sat, this is the savings of about $15,000 at the top. That $11,000 that got added in, that was kind of always there. It just wasn't on your 100, whatever it is that you have in front of you, because it wasn't put in Skyward.
All right, let me ask one question. When we were talking, Ms. Haynes, about the primary center and the budget that we have in front of us as the revised budget for the current year, that the budget at the end of last year that we approved was actually a budget that was based on 3 grades.
That is correct.
So is this budget of 110 and change for the current year also based on 3 grades?
No, that's
No.
4.
So that is based on,
So it's the
I mean,
same
I'm,
amount of money
There's
that
savings.
He saved a lot of money.
no, I guess for the current year that we're in, the one that for
2023
Yes.
is a budget for 3 grades.
that's, okay, so that's, did,
23-24 is a budget for 4
I
grades.
heard
so
it. I heard it.
you understand that, okay.
So
So
these
it is like, it is a significantly lower amount of money being spent on
And then-
on a larger number of kids.
I added a grade level.
And right, so that means the next school or the previous one should have a decrease because they've lost that student.
And
I
that's,
get it.
and the only one, and the
significant.
two, but it's not the previous or the next, it's the one before that, because it's the PC and the middle school that have different
Gotcha.
numbers of kids, right? So it's like,
Yep.
so there is another school that's seeing a decrease in their budget, but it's not the
I got
IC.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense?
I got you. Okay.
That's
It
where
does
we
make
are?
sense. Thank you.
And I thought that
Yep.
when we were talking about the PC, I thought that it figured in back here, so. Thank you, sir.
All right, you're welcome.
Okay, and now we have the high school. He came up with some ideas for some cuts, but again, we're all gonna have to look at them and decide what we want.
Yeah, okay.
Julia, I have a question before you go too far. When we're done all this, is there going to be a conversation about all the transfers and what they were for, and how could we have the money in one school to be able to transfer to another based on last year's budget? Those types of things. Are those transfers
That's
calculated in
that's not
last
a,
year's number?
that's not a budget workshop conversation, that's a finance meeting conversation, so we can have that at the
Okay.
next finance
Okay,
meeting?
that's fine. That's fine. I just want to make sure that the transfers weren't in last year's budget. So let's
Is
take
that
a
an
look.
accurate statement? Okay. So yeah, I was
Does
just
that make
checking
sense?
I was just checking with Kathleen that I was right, but yeah, so we'll have that conversation at the next finance meeting.
Perfect.
Okay?
And I agree, but my question, I have one question. Let's say we transferred $100,000 out of the IC. Is that number that we transferred out in that budget that we're looking at today? It's important to know whether or not it was included in the number we're given, but it was transferred out later.
The reason I put the revised budget on that spreadsheet is because you are looking at a revised, which means not the original. After budget transfers is your revised budget.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Do you guys have anything you want to discuss in particular first?
Now, his cuts include band equipment, some books, trips, field trips, just a small trip to Walnut Hill College, etc.
So as directed, all the travel expenses for field trips were removed from the budget. That's approximately $8,000.
Okay.
That would include all your VTC tours, Alvernia College Fair.
The BBEC trips, which we use for Chapter 339 for 2 artifacts for students. We have to come up with 2 different artifacts for them inside of the building.
Okay, so that, the information here with the suggested cuts, the things that are highlighted in yellow and orange, is there any special meaning?
Well, the orange is just highlighted because that's one line item for $40,611, and he took out band performance shares,
Right.
new choral performances, the chorus performance uniforms, and the bass. He split it out so you can see the cost for each individual item.
So the red is costs that we are taking out no matter what, because they were found that they were duplicates between my budget and Mrs. Owen's budget. So the social studies books are coming out, those 46.2. The AP textbooks was a reduction down to a classroom set as opposed to a full set for all of the students that take an AP course.
I'm sorry, you said that, which thing was a thing that it's not, it's on paper, it's a cut, but it's really, that's a duplicate line item? Which one was that?
The 46.
The red item.
The 2 red items, okay. Okay, so that's not, we're not going without those books. We're just, they're coming out of the curriculum
They
budget.
may, but it would have to go through the textbook process.
Okay, and the music things, go ahead.
So after talking with Mrs. Bennett, Mrs. Oswald, those are things that need to go in, that have not been being put in because obviously money was tight and
Yeah.
whatnot, but now we're at the point where uniforms can't be fixed because they're just
Yes.
disintegrating. So that's how much it will cost to replace the uniforms.
So are these the gowns that the kids wear? Not the full length gowns, not the select chorus dresses and
That's all-
tuxedos. It's all of it.
All of it.
Okay.
It's falling apart.
Okay.
So-
You know, I know.
The band's performance chairs are kind of the same thing. We're repairing them. I know the boosters, some of the booster members are amazing and they've been fixing and
So when I see here the cut is that we're still spending the money, we're just spending less than we had budgeted for.
that's remove them and still keep using the ones that we're repairing.
If you want, keep using what we have.
Yeah.
These are suggested, these are areas for cuts. I mean, there is a need, but if we're in a tight situation, these are areas you can cut from.
Okay.
So at the end of this, if you look at all those cuts, those are all the things in the line items within my budget that are different from last year. The rest of the line items we are doing are
The same.
pretty much the same thing. Even with reducing it, the cost of everything is more. So even with reducing things, it still costs more than last year's line item because it's 8 to 12% more for some stuff.
So, okay, so for the folks listening on the phone, so the current year's revised budget is 269K. The budget that is in front of us in the PDF that was shared a week ago, the line item is a little under 414K. The suggested cuts, and it's a lot, are 157 and change K, and would get us to 357-ish.
257.
Because you know why? 4 minus 1
Yeah, so
is
the
3, but 2 minus 1 is 2. Okay, all right. So it would bring us, if we did all these cuts, it would bring us under last year's budget by like 15, 13K.
Like I said, everything on that line is stuff that is over and above what we're just doing now.
Yeah.
So it's replacing stuff that we have now, but it is falling apart. It is,
Yeah, I'm clear on
so
that.
that is the stuff.
So how can we make sure that sports all gets new uniforms on a cycle, and we just spent $7,000 on some basketball machine,
6.
but we're leaving
But that's a really cool thing.
But so,
band uniforms?
and they
And the
should,
band uniforms are falling apart.
and we should, and you know, these are suggested cuts. I think one of the reasons they're highlighted is because I would really like to not see those be cut, but this is what we came up with.
These are the differences from just the normal year to year of what we do. And even there, on some of the line items, even though the numbers are typically the same, like for instance, we have actively learning here. I went through and counted individually our exact students based off our enrollment that Mrs. Martin sends out every month to figure out exactly how many we need. We didn't estimate it, so I was able to reduce that number. And that number is still more than we spent this year because the licenses are slightly more. So these are the things in there that push us over where our number was last year because we need to take a look. Should we do them? Should we not do them?
So if we put those items that are in yellow back in, it's 296,780. The yellow items. We put the yellow items back in. It's 296,780.
Well, not necessarily. Hold on. So I'm seeing here that the original amount that was there is 40K, right? For those 3 line items together, is that right?
Yeah.
For those 3 together, and then the
40,611.
the altered number is, the new amount is 11,396, 20, 5, 6, 8, 4. So the total savings from the original amount to the new amount is just about, it's about $3,000. Is that correct?
So right now, the performance chairs are $29,214. The new choral uniforms are $8,500, and the new bass drums $2,800. So those are the 3 numbers that you would add. And then you reduce it, I think it comes down to just about 3,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's still that is stuff that we purchase year over year.
So the budget would just be $3,000 more.
Do you need all the chairs? I mean, I was kidding with Mrs. Thompson, but I was just like earlier, but I mean, it's obviously, do you need all the chairs? I mean, or is it just 29?
It's like, so like the bass drum is an all or nothing, and
Right.
buying enough uniforms for everybody is all or nothing, but yeah, chairs are something that maybe we could buy fewer.
Yeah. Is that?
I mean, they would be on next year's, just because they're falling apart. And then as far as I understand it, this was a ask that was prior to COVID.
Yeah.
That just got taken off because it's just
Okay.
gonna be that track. So we're, like, with Mrs. Thompson's comment, we're kind of over on our schedule to.
I'm not super happy with loss of field trips, which is like a total of what, a set, between the 2 line items, it's $8,000. But those line items in yellow, I would like to see those be served.
Yes.
It's, Kristen, Mrs. Thompson's point is valid. I mean, athletics has a separate budget, and it makes it a little bit easier for her to, for Ms. Schmidt to be like, okay, this year we're going to do this, and next year we're going to do this other thing. When you've got these things that only happen once every 10 years, and it's a little harder to do it. I remember the fight we had. No, not a fight. The active and lively discussion that we had when we got marching band uniforms. Because that was a huge line item, but it had to be done. you know, and, you know, same thing what you said is like, you know, we were holding those things together with spit and twine and a prayer, and I'm sure that the rows are the same way. So I would.
And I think it's prudent then when you look at things like that, when you do the same thing you did with the technology, and you know you're going to need to buy them every 10 years, you should budget for those items.
Yeah, it is a
You
little.
know, X per year, so it's not a big drop in the bucket.
It is a little difficult sometimes when, what do I want to say, the size of how many we have to purchase, and I think that with clothing sometimes, like that, the inflation and can be a little bit more unpredictable for us. It's not like we can go, like if we pick a company that gives us our stuff a certain year and we get a good deal for whatever reason, you know, if we go back in 10 years, that company might not even be there. It does make it. I'm just saying, it does make it a little more difficult.
I agree, but if you spent $10,000 and you budgeted $1,000 per year and they increased to $12,000,
yeah,
you're only looking at 2 extra instead of 12.
Correct.
I'm just saying it helps level the budget out. You know you're going to spend at least 10 because they're going to go up. So we should, you know, it should be every year you're budgeting for those recurring expenses, even though they're on a long-term basis. You have to forecast that expense. That's all. I think so. Makes it easier.
It's at the building level. I don't think we've given the principals the ability to budget and sock money away for a future purchase in the same way that we've done so with facilities. And we might be able to create that at some point, but I just don't think we have that mechanism at the moment, if that makes sense.
Also, when questions are asked to reduce, the question becomes, do we have chairs? Yes, the answer is we have chairs.
Yes.
Can people sit in them? Yes.
Yeah.
So then, okay, let's take the new ones off. And that's what
I mean, we made those same hard decisions with the turf. I mean, we let that go an extra, maybe 3 to 5 years beyond where it should have been, but you know, but we only started we were able to save that money when we actually woke up and realized we had to start saving money. We started doing it and saving it in the capital budget every year. So,
and that's
we don't have the same.
That's the benefit of improving. You're just improving the process all the way through.
I agree.
Every year we improve the process.
Absolutely. So that is my hope and wish is that that the money to take care of our music students and to bring back at least a few field trips are able to be brought back, but all the rest of these cuts and the fact that the books are actually being taken care of out of Angela's budget, I think, you know, it's not great, but it's fine.
There's some other ones in here that we might just.
Do we want to talk about them? Oh man, you want to tell me more bad news? Okay, go ahead.
They could come up. So the line item for the supplies math budget, that is removing us as a building in the district continually purchasing the calculators. So we would go back to, if a student is taking one of the math courses that requires a TI-84 calculator, families would purchase those on their own.
Yeah.
So that's
how long has that been that we've been supplying them?
Maybe 17, 18, kind of that started changing. And then, you know, with COVID putting a nice delay on us, we didn't really repurchase any that have died or, you know, went out of service or worn out. So that's approximately enough to...
How many do we have in the building right now?
Classroom set for every teacher.
That's
so
it.
That comes in when we deliver Keystones, that students get a calculator that we supply them, that we ensure is not programmed, because you have to go into like that.
So. See, I used to get, I bought my kids them, but...
I did too.
But you know, but they are weirdos, and they take a lot of advanced math in college, so I knew that they would continue to use them.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's just something that might come up, and that's in there to come out. The other one is the Gateway program tuition. That was for not special education students, but regular education students, and that's a program through Monaco that we originally last year set aside 4 seats to use with students. That's a program for our seniors who are trending toward not graduating. That program is housed on their campus, and it is kind of a gateway to college, is what it is. It has a little bit different structure to it, so it's for struggling learners that we are worried about not graduating. So we've used 4 seats so far in my career here, and 3 of the students I went through there obtained their diploma, and then moved on to being enrolled at Montco for either a certificate program or a degree seeking program.
That earmark of 31,000, that is available to 4, that would make that program available to 4 students that needed it?
That we would choose if we would use it. There's some precursors and markers that students have to meet, family meetings, just because we're paying the tuition for them to go there, so.
Did we earmark for 4 students last year?
Yep.
Do we have all 4 taken?
No.
Okay.
We have not had anybody that met the markers that we require to spend the money to do that. Just because if we pay it, attendance can't be one of the issues. Because once we pay it, if they stop going, we still pay it.
You're on the hook, yeah, I got it. So when you're trying to do the eval, if this is a program that a student would be eligible for by what?
Yeah.
Okay, and where do they go? Do they go to like Royersford or Pottstown? Or you said it's Montco?
Montco, their campus.
Oh, Montco. Got it.
Yep.
So if we don't use it, do we not spend it?
It's been used for other things, for the transfers, as Mr. Strobel says. There's items that get sent to us to be purchased that aren't in the budget. For instance, when we have students stand up here that make it to national somewhere, and the district helps them out, the help out comes out of this budget somewhere. But it's not in there on the line item, so we have to find it.
So you're talking about TSA or something?
Correct.
Or FBLA
Or FBLA, or any of our students that,
yeah.
and additionally, some of our staff that have done some tremendous things at the national level with stuff. We've helped out with him to go be an ambassador for our district at the national level for stuff. That's come out of here, but that wasn't budgeted before.
So if I were to tell you what I would prefer, if we wanted to try to reduce the budget, I would want to say we would hold 2 positions open for future students and not 4 instead of getting rid of it entirely.
Okay.
That's based on this year, right? I mean,
Yeah, but I'm
next
saying,
year
but
could be a different situation.
and it could be, but
Next year.
but I'm just saying, but if we're looking for cuts, I would rather have something lowered than zeroed.
No,
That's all.
I'm with you. But next year, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I get it.
But it's a good tool for a struggling learner.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's some of those benchmarks that we have to make sure. Attendance is the big one because attending school is an issue. They're still attending the school. It's just kind of a different environment. It's more of a college type feel because you're on their campus. The 4 kids that we've had sent there, 3 of them have been successful. 1 was not, but we still ended up.
That's the one that's in.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else on here that?
Just the actively learn licenses, like I said, I went through. The $2,000 off that is basically with the exact numbers we have right now. If we get more kids in any of the 2 grades that we use those for, 9th and 10th, that could have to go up.
Okay.
The field trips that are listed there, those are listed separately because those BBC are curricular in nature because we use them for 339 artifacts. And then the other ones are the BCTC tours when we pay for transportation for our 9th graders applying to BCTC to go out and do those tours.
Aren't those BCTC tours also Naviance artifacts for some kids?
For
the kids that end up going.
If they need it, they can use the tour.
I
But
see.
we have so many artifacts built in now. Most of them don't need it. They're already
I got
what they need.
All right.
The professional development and travel, I reduced down to 500.
Down by 500? Oh, you reduced it to. I gotcha.
So that's a good chunk. Just because we should not lose any staff members that are AP teachers. So that's
Did you just knock on wood?
I did not know. If we lose an AP teacher, we have to send them for that week training for them to be trained by College Board to be an AP teacher. So we shouldn't have to do that. So
Got it.
We should be able to be okay with 500 each of those. And then the assemblies is always one that's there. We have not brought in any outside assemblies here at the high school. We've had a few put on by our staff or students for varying things.
Okay.
We haven't had to pay an outside vendor to come in and do anything. And then the last one is a scheduling board, like you've all seen in my office. We wanted to get another one to build out our flex period to continue our MTSS structuring in Mr. Scabori's office, or for one of the assistant principals to begin a little more refinement of how we structure that flex period within our day.
Okay.
So we remove that.
Is there anything in the current budget, do we have money set aside if we can find somebody to put on a musical next year that we can do so at the high school?
Yeah, so that's been savings.
I know from the previous one that we did,
We
right?
have a lot of clubs and activities, and we are getting resignations every other day. People are stepping away from advising clubs,
I know.
sports for coaches, so those are all unfilled. They're posted, talk about them at the faculty meetings.
Yeah.
Even community, I've done a few interviews with community members to try to get them in, and then they kind of get into the interview, and we walk through kind of what it entails.
Well, it's a lot. It's a
Yeah,
lot,
yeah.
for sure. Okay.
So,
But the money is there, we can find somebody. Okay. All right. Anybody have any other questions about the high school budget?
Nope.
Okay. Thanks, man.
No, I don't, Julia. Sorry, I couldn't get off mute.
No, it's okay. All good. All right, where are we moving?
So we're at facilities now, facilities and / transportation, so we'll be handling both of them.
Okay.
We,
You can, and so can we do, I can only pull one up at a time, so.
We're going to start with facilities.
Okay.
And from a facility standpoint, we all know that 2144 Beavertown Road, that we are interested in possibly selling that, but there's some engineering work that needs to be done. Just so everybody knows, with the sale of that building, we would reduce 124,200 plus. That's because they go up every year, so you know, the expenses with the utilities. Engineering fees for the first year, 15,000, so it would net about 109 the first year that we sell that.
Okay.
And some other cuts were taken into consideration, were about 5,500 out of the Beavertown Road expenses for some maintenance or whatever.
Yeah, just general stuff that I
And-
think we can cut.
And that's moving along, the process of figuring out what that would entail and all that is still moving along slowly?
That's scheduled to be on the facilities meeting as
Yeah, I'm actually
a conversation item.
Okay.
Engineering this week.
Okay, so we have a conversation coming up, that's cool.
Does that savings include the savings we get from River Rock? Or don't they give us a discount on tuition?
That's, there's two sides of the budget, which is considered, I don't do that net. Revenue is one item, and so we would have to decrease our revenue down by about 46,000 I think.
How much?
I think it's 46,000.
So
Okay.
we save 124,000, but then we lose.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't net that, no.
Okay.
Can I ask a dumb question? What's 2144 Beavertown Road?
That's the old PC.
It's the River Rock building.
The River Rock building where we
the old
used to
district
have our
office used to be.
meetings.
Okay.
Yep. All good?
Yeah, so originally I projected an additional 20,000 roughly, but
Mhm.
with these savings, we're at additional 15,500. I wouldn't say savings, I'd say cuts.
So just the cuts to Weavertown Road listed there, or are there more?
That's all I have right now.
Okay, that's fine.
I think that's adequate.
Yep.
So I'd be at 3,907. Let's see, roughly just under 4 million.
Okay, and does the grounds contract on this one, it's included here, or is that separate?
That, our current grounds contract is in here, correct?
Okay. All right. I don't have, anybody have any questions on? Oh. One moment, please.
Go ahead.
He's gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
No,
We
we're
lost
missing the
Kevin.
other one.
Oh, we lost Kevin.
He might have gone through the,
Before I
that's
ask,
the mountains.
before I ask if there's any
Is he
questions,
checking
I
that?
want.
That's really cheap.
Please tell Julia to call me back. I got bounced.
He can hear me if he's watching.
Yeah, he sent me one too.
That's a shame.
Thanks, Russ.
Thank you.
I did
Sorry about
see
that.
it. I did see it. I didn't see it quick enough. So
Yeah, no, sure.
We missed you, Kevin.
we discussed
Thanks, Bucky.
so far the cuts to the suggested cuts to the budget presented for facilities would just be a cut to the maintenance expenses, or is it?
That's correct.
Yeah, maintenance expenses of $5,500, and that's the first pass. And so that does still leave us with our budget about 15? No, about 10K more than last year.
I would say 50.
Is it 15?
Yeah, it's 15,000.
Is that because of the forecasted broken items?
Broken items.
I did forecast,
In other words, is that because of forecasted broken items and then,
I forecasted certain different things per building, like HVAC, you know, we've had 5, in 10 months, we've had 5 go down, so. Lighting improvements, lift rentals, which is, I don't think really we've kept an eye on, but now we do, so I have an idea, we need to rent a lift 7 times a year.
So if we did sell, what I don't know if you heard before the call dropped is that if we did sell Weavertown Road, we would be spending $124K less in maintenance and electric and all that crap stuff. Very important stuff, but yeah, but one thing that that Ms. Thompson mentioned is that, you know, on the revenue side, we would no longer be getting the reduction in tuition for the students that go to River Rock. So that would be 46, did you say that?
Yeah, there's a lease payment. They pay for leasing that building.
Yeah.
If we no longer have that, if the students, we get a reduction in price.
Right.
That's a whole different, that's an expenditure line.
Yeah, but that line
It's not
item
the
would,
actual leasing of
but
the
that
building.
line item of revenue would probably go away.
Yes,
But 46K.
it's about 46K.
So you know, we'd have 120 if we got rid of
We got our, looking it up right now.
if we got rid of the Weavertown Road building, we'd have 124K less in expenses to keep the building up, but we would lose revenue. We'd lose some revenue in rent, but we'd also lose some revenue in our students that.
If you look at it another way, that's what we pay to keep that building operational.
Right.
And that 124,000 is your utilities.
Yeah.
There's also maintenance costs that you can't predict because I don't know when the plumbing's gonna go. I have no idea, but we're.
Oh.
So you do have other costs that are involved. One year we had a lot, but then I think it's
2 years ago wasn't bad.
Yes.
We just fixed a boiler in there now.
Yeah.
So,
So do you think the cost for the building is more than the tuition?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Did we get an appraisal on that?
We can't.
We
We can't do, the conversation's gonna be happening during facilities, but there's a lot of steps we have to do before we can get an appraisal. Yeah, so,
we would have to, and that's why the engineering fees here for subdivision, we'd have to do a study, see if we could subdivide it, and get approvals from the township, and go through that process.
but Dr. Cooper said that there will be an update at the facilities meeting, and then the facilities chair will update the committee of the whole on Monday.
With the other schools?
there was and obviously you can't consider it now, but there was a proposal 2 years ago that maybe we could take the number of students and what we're paying per student and bring that into our own building. And where we would have a savings. Is that still the case, or is that something that's not, that we wouldn't be even looking at ever?
I mean, there's always a possibility of that, but then there's processes you have to go through to be an AEDY registered facility or school, and or approved as an AEDY program. I mean, that certainly can be looked at.
That would need to be like a much longer conversation than during a budget meeting, you know? That
Yes,
would,
no,
yeah,
I
you know, I
just,
get
I'm
it.
just throwing it out there. I didn't know if it was still an option. I know we couldn't take it into consideration now, but I didn't know if it was still an option.
Yeah, no, I get your point. Yeah, and yeah, we can still have that conversation, but it wouldn't be anything that we'd be able to act upon in 23,
To do now.
24. Right.
Yep.
Any other questions for, on facilities before we move on to transportation? Okay.
I'm good.
All right, moving on to transportation, which starts with a T. All right. Okay, go ahead.
So, the budget, 4 million, and 4,291,000. I think that's very accurate. And that includes adding 2 buses for the BCTC, which is not in.
Oh, right, because right now BCTC takes care of that themselves.
Correct.
I am not, so the BCTC currently, they contract for their own transportation from every school, but we are going to, this transportation budget includes the fact that we're going to have now 2 BCTC buses that we are going to have to pay for. Are our dues?
BCTC lowered the tuition.
Okay, so BCTC lowered the tuition per student. So BCTC lowered tuition per student. I don't know if it matches up exactly, but there should be some reduction in those tuitions for students to help mitigate the increase we're spending for those 2 buses on the transportation side.
But you're not gonna really say the tuition number because we don't know.
Because we don't know how many kids there are, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I got you.
So it's like 150,000 because I think it came to 886 and we're usually at 1 point, maybe 1.1.
I gotcha.
So
Okay.
it's not a huge savings, but it's about 100.
Yeah, we'll save.
So right now, the numbers we have for transportation right now are a 145,000 increase from the current year, right?
That's correct.
And these numbers that we see here do not include the revenue back that we get for our the money, the bus subsidy that we get from the government, right?
That is correct.
Because that's considered a revenue.
Revenue.
Okay.
Can you just post this somewhere?
Where?
This savings.
Oh, she's pointing out that we are spending, we are currently on track to spend less this year than we did last year.
We're going to do less buses.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're actually going to take.
She would like us to take out a billboard to say so.
We're taking another high school bus out.
Can we put a donkey on there?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So maybe it will be ventured at the committee of the whole. So. All right.
You know what? Excuse me.
Yes.
I think it's really important to point. I think it's really important to point out that last year's budget versus what our actual expense was, we're down 6 or 7 buses. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it looks like we're getting an increase of 2 buses, but we're not. It's going to be still a net down 4. But because the bus company, what they did in terms of being able to redo the routes, they realized that we did not need all the number of buses, and then also stepped up in providing that back to us, even though we did contract based on what the previous bus company had been charging us for more buses than what we needed.
Yeah.
Not, based on their opinion.
Yeah.
But I think, it looks like the transportation is going up this year. It's not. It's going down. But based on actual spend, yes.
It went down significantly from 21-22 to 22-23. There will be a slight uptick. So that like, matching up the number of buses needed to how many students we had, that was done this year, and those savings were realized in the current year. But there will be another.
Do you know how much that was?
It was from last year to this year. We spent 550,000. No, six. I do know how to do math. 550,000 less, $500,000 less this year than we spent last year. Now we don't see the revenue side of things that could mess with like the amount of actual savings, because we know that the amount that we get back from the current buses actually should be higher per bus.
Correct.
But we are running fewer buses. We are running fewer buses, so I don't know if the numbers are going to be exactly. It might not be higher because we actually have fewer buses.
So the new bus company charges $500,000 less.
Correct.
Than what they
But from this current year that I'm looking at to next year, with the addition of two buses, there will be $150,000 more spent. Correct.
Plus
which
the
is
offset,
still less.
Plus the offset coming from the BCIT. We're still net way ahead.
Right,
Okay.
which is
I just
still.
want it in my brain.
And next year's budget, as it's projected right now, is still less money outlay for next year than last year's was.
Okay.
So.
And by how much? Does the totals add up for the bus?
300.
Slide that somewhere else.
$400,000 less.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Is that,
Yeah.
don't shake your head like, yeah, maybe, kind of. It's good enough. And nothing else for transportation, I don't think, right? So I think that we are going to have to, once we know what we are asking for reimbursement-wise from the government, I would like to do that autopsy on last year's money, actual real outlay for transportation versus this year's money, actual real outlay for transportation when we get there.
You mean the truth?
Yes, truth.
I do it. Right?
Yeah, I would like that. But where's your hat? But that'll be for future somebody to do, because that'll be after July 1, right? That we don't find out what the actual real number is until then.
We based last year's transportation cost was what was submitted for the revenue we're receiving this year.
Okay.
So this year's transportation cost will be for the revenue for next year. So yes, that'll definitely be for next
That's
year.
fine.
I think they're still budgeting, it's about the same as coming in as projected from this year's 1.4 million, somewhere in that area.
Yeah, but
And that's what we've always gotten, so it's right around.
But I would like to have
Really curious to see what it looks like next cloud.
that's future CFO's problem. But yeah, we'll ask that July 3rd. Thank you.
Thanks for the good news.
That was good news.
It was.
I like good news. You hear that, Aaron? I like good news. Security.
We have other budgets.
Yes.
If you want to look at any different, does anybody have any questions on there's the superintendent one, there's the security
Board
one.
services, security,
Yeah.
Curriculum, the business office. You sat all this time, sir. I know. It's under resource officer for art.
Resource office, that would be.
I would like to know if there's any surprises. I do know that we've got a new contract for resource officers, so I would.
Because of the change.
And I just wanted to know, because I know we did have to sign a new contract with a new provider, so I was wondering if we could at least,
We made a big change.
we did make a big change. So, but your budget is listed as significantly less than the current budget. Where are the cuts, or is it just that we spent like a lot of OT last year, the current year that we're in?
And there were also security grants in last year. The security grants were in like last year.
So that showed up in the revenue, and so we were able to spend it
Yes. that's
from
why
different,
you're
from,
seeing higher
okay.
numbers in the past then.
So the current budget is 285,600, and that gives us,
And also the 22, 23, we weren't sure what it was going to cost.
oh, right.
And so I put some
So you put
money.
extra money in there for us. Is that 4 armed officers,
Yeah.
secure, and 2 unarmed?
4 armed and 3 unarmed.
4 armed and 3 unarmed.
There's technically 4 unarmed and 2 unarmed positions, but the 1 armed position is broken up into 2.
I got you. Okay. Okay. And
There's not 2 armed officers?
2 armed at the high school,
So it's 5 on.
5 armed, I'm sorry.
okay.
And are we
That's what
going
you
to
said.
keep the second one of the Intermediate Center for the rest of the year?
Well, it all depends. You see how things go.
And that is but that is outside this current numbered budget, because that was extra money that we are allocating for that, right?
It's extra money, however, because we weren't fully staffed at the beginning of the year. There may be some to carry over that may allow.
So you
us-
might not go over your initial budgeted
May not
number
go
anyway?
over,
Okay, great.
no. It took them a while to get people.
To get everybody up and running, I remember that.
Julian, can you speak up a little bit? I can't hear him.
We may have a little bit left over that we can use to extend this second guy at DIC
For some more months.
foreseeable future.
Okay.
So what do we have, like, how many months do we have left in a year?
Oh, yeah, the people at the building level know how many days we have left.
Well, I know he has his days on his calendar.
I know, right? So,
Every time I see him walking in the bathroom, he's counting his days.
so you don't know you don't know if without allocating more money, you don't know if we have enough for the extra person for all 68 days, but we have it for a while.
Since this just came about last week,
Mhm.
I'm gonna take a look at that.
Okay.
I'll sit down, talk to Mr. Hurley about that.
Okay.
And then, we'll see where we're at, but I think we should have enough to carry over for quite some time.
All right, so just for the folks on the phone, the current budget for various reasons is for the current year is $400K, but some of that comes out of grant money that's disappearing. So the current budget is significantly smaller at 285,600, which so 115,000 less than the current budgeted number. Is that correct? That look right to you?
Sounds right, but
Okay.
I don't know what you're looking at. so-
Oh, your current budget listing for, oh, okay. So Kathleen says that, so I'm looking at the right thing. So I just want to make sure I'm telling these guys the right thing.
That is correct.
And they also just mentioned that the current, Jeff mentioned that the current budget that's listed there for the current year, 400K, that the additional, that the additional resource officer that we currently have down at the elementary level, because we had some time period where we didn't have full staffing at the beginning of the year, we should be able to, at least for a little while, continue to fund those positions without increasing the current year's budget. Copy?
Copy.
Okay. Anything else? Any other questions you have about security?
I don't.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So as for the other, thank you so much. So as for the other budgets, I just had a couple of questions for CNI, and then if anybody else wants to jump in with the other things that they want to ask. Budget for the current year includes the math money for math, the math.
Yeah, and we do it that way where we split it out over the 6 years.
Right. And what is anything, is there anything that we are replacing, spending money on replacing things that are worn and need to be replaced with the identical thing, or replacing something new that is significant, like for like English classes or anything like that?
The only thing would be like social studies is really hard to pay.
And that was listed as for the high school, that is some money.
And so
But we have to choose something, or are we going with something specific?
So, our social studies teachers have been working diligently on a vetting process.
Okay.
However, it's not something I brought up to CNI committee yet. It's kind of in the works.
All right.
I'm kind of biding my time because, well, for a couple reasons, but one of the reasons is because some of the things are more pressing than others. Like 8th grade really is the priority.
So do you think that we might not get like the whole K to 12 replacement, but some of it you plan to have on for the next year?
Right.
Okay.
And that number that the high school had given, that's inflated because that quote was for a ton of books. We don't need a ton of books. We need a class set.
Okay.
Digital licenses. So that number was inflated.
All right. Okay, that was the only question I had about CNI. Anybody have any questions? What we haven't talked about specifically is board services, the business office, the superintendent's office, community relations office, and outlays for out service tuition that's not special ed related. Those are the things that we haven't talked about yet.
Right.
Anybody have questions about any of those? I hear none.
They're pretty consistent budgets, with the exception of the tuition. That just gives you a different perspective on it, so I showed it a different way. The tuition is also in the special ed budget, so it doesn't add up all the budgets to equal.
Yeah.
Because you want to see the special ed piece, and that's
Yeah.
where I took the tuition and I did whatever, just to show you a different perspective.
All right, so what's our next step?
Okay, so just to show you today with the governor's budget, this was projected.
Okay.
Projected. This is where he would like it to be in March, on March 7th of 2023. We do not know what's going to be approved when it gets there, but this is what he's projecting. So it's about $1 million increase between DEF and special ed. Right now we're at 9.3. Or 9.4 rounding up, and he wants it to be at about 10 million for BEL. This is just the Daniel Room, and then we're at 2 million currently for special ed, he's looking at 2.3, so that's $263,000.
Yeah.
So combined, we're looking at about $1 million on
And-
March 7th.
And while that's interesting,
That's pretty.
while that's interesting, I always look at the governor's document, whoever the governor may be, although it's always been a guy, but so whoever he may be, that it's always an aspirational document when that comes out, and so it can always look a lot different. Now, last year we had a pleasant surprise. You know, next year might not be the
First year I've ever seen it.
A pleasant surprise, yeah.
Yes.
Usually it's either flat or a bad surprise.
And I don't ever take these numbers seriously, I just want to.
Yeah, she just want you. Yeah, Ms. Haynes just wanted to tell us. Yeah,
Flat.
yeah. That press conference was today, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
30.
All right, so just, there's no increases in the budget for the teacher contract at this point.
Right.
No additional salary benefits for the superintendent. We know with the CFO, so everything's been straightened out in that area, so you don't have to worry about that. PSERS rate for 23-24, you know this, it's about a $75,000 savings for this year, but remember, it's probably gonna go up
Yeah.
a little bit more the next year. when it's
Right.
realized. what they did. And then the next budget workshop date should be somewhere between May 1st or 4th.
Are we,
'Cause we
is
need
it
to
okay
go-
with you if I set the date during the cow and then we'll pick a
I'm just giving
day?
you something to think about now, and then you guys can bring to the cow.
I mean, we've got 6 of the 9 here, but I would like some input on the date from everybody else.
Not a Thursday.
Okay, so it can't be a Thursday. That leaves, 4 other days that week.
It has to be Monday.
Can we just do lunch? So we're good then?
Yes, other than that, I don't have anything else.
You guys on the phone, do you have anything you want to discuss before we sign off? Okay, so the next steps is, I know that some of these we kind of either looked at 55 miles an hour going by them on the highway, or we didn't look at them at all. So if you have any questions about especially those central office budgets that we didn't discuss, if you want to CC Dr. Cooper and Ms. Haynes, and we can get some answers for you, because I know you're sitting at home, it's not as easy to formulate those questions. So if you got some time to do that, and if there's anything significant that we need to talk about between now and the next budget meeting, we might have a quick discussion about it during the finance committee meeting, but I don't see any. But, all right. Do we have any public comment at this time? Thank you everybody for coming. I know it's not fun to come here at the end of a long day, so I appreciate it. And we're going to adjourn.